For the first time ever on a Nintendo system, the Switch 2 just got Lies of P Complete Edition, which is the sponsor of today's video. The full gothic Pinocchio-themed campaign and the Overture expansion, which opens up even more ridiculous weapon combinations you can invent in the weapon assembly system. My personal favorite thing about Lies of P. Like, what do you even call this? How does this function? I don't know, but I like it. If you're just starting brand new with Lies of P Complete Edition, though, here's a collection of vital tips you'll want to have in your pocket when you first start a fresh new playthrough. The first major life decision you're going to have to make is which class? The balance path, dexterity path, or strength path? If you go the strength path, you're going to want to keep pumping the motivity attribute, since weapons that have a B, A, or S scaling with motivity are primarily what you're going to want to be using. Motivity weapons tend to be the larger, heavier, and sometimes slightly slower swinging weapons that can hit as hard as a truck of toddlers colliding with the enemy. The toddlers are fine in this odd situation, the enemy is not. The downside of the Path of Strength is that it starts with a low vigor attribute, which means your stamina bar is really short. So I highly recommend also focusing the vigor attribute when you level up so you can swing around those larger stamina-hungry weapons more. Next, you could go the dexterity path, which means you'll be aiming to boost your technique attribute and use weapons that have a B, A, or S scaling with technique. The technique style weapons tend to be usually lighter in weight and faster to swing. This path starts with pretty high vigor, so a longer stamina bar. But one other attribute I recommend that you account for is its fairly low capacity. Capacity increases your total weight limit, and you're going to want to have higher weight later in the game so you can keep equipping new defensive parts, essentially like better armor pieces that'll flat out reduce the damage that you take. Put on too much weight though, and you will get unassumingly thick with a majestically slow dodge roll, then eventually a no-roll roll. And then we have the balance path, which is the best option if you're more of a, I don't know, I'll figure out my build later in the game type of player, since this has evenly distributed motivity and technique, while also having the highest value in the advance attribute compared to the other starting paths. This is a solid option for creating a quality build, meaning that it uses weapons that scale with both motivity and technique, or a great option for pumping the advance attribute. Advance increases your Legion arm gauge, so you can use it more often, and weapons that scale with advance tend to often focus on elementally imbued effects. Two other things to keep in mind when picking your character's path. Don't stress too much on which weapon each one starts with. You can easily buy all the other path's weapons from this vendor that you'll come across in the first 30 minutes of the game, and they cost next to nothing. The other thing to consider is that your Legion arms also have different attribute scaling with either motivity, technique, and advance. So to be most effective, prefer using one of the Legion arms that scale with a B, A, or S with your highest attribute. Combat! Let's get right into the gritty fun stuff. You can extend the length of your combo sequences even if your stamina bar is drained by popping a Fable Art. Those are your weapon's active abilities. If you have the charges available, Fable Arts can be triggered when your stamina is empty. So you can use a long string of basic attacks right up until you run out of stamina, then pop a Fable Art to continue the combo, instead of having to back off. Weapons that have defensive-focused Fable Arts, those can be used at the last second to save yourself if you ever find yourself exposed with no stamina. Like right here, getting me safely away from these dance moves when I was left with my stamina completely drained. Guarding is highly important in Lies of P, even more so than dodging in many cases. If you block an attack, your health gauge will have a temporary HP segment that you can earn back if you're quick to retaliate. This can neutralize taking any damage whatsoever by being aggressive after guarding. A perfectly timed guard, though, you won't take any damage at all. Some enemies wield breakable weapons, and if you perfect guard those enough times, you can actually break apart that weapon that they use. When timing a perfect guard, if the enemy's weapon flashes red, that means it can eventually be broken, which will nerf that enemy's moveset and damage output. Like this guy, he no longer uses his big wheel to attack. Against certain bosses, focusing on perfect guards in the first part of the fight to break apart the weapon that they're using can make the rest of the fight drastically easier. It can also be a good habit to buffer your attacks and dodges with a guard by holding guard during their animation to bring up a block on the earliest active frame. What I mean by this, if you go for a dodge and miss the timing on it, but you're holding guard throughout the entire animation, you pop up with that guard at the very end of the dodge, which can sometimes cover your mistakes. If you stack enough damage fast enough, land charged attacks, or continually perfect guard an enemy, they'll enter a staggerable state, and if you hold the special attack button, which is right trigger by default, and then hit them with it, it'll knock them down into a full stagger. Tap normal attack in the highlighted red spot near them and you'll do a powerful stagger attack. You'll know when the enemy is staggerable when their health gauge is flashing white. However, if you're real quick when you knock them into a stagger, you have just enough time to get in a free charged special attack before triggering that stagger finisher. Might as well squeeze in as much damage as you can while the enemy's controller is momentarily disconnected. The stagger window can also be extended with certain key upgrades that you can get in the skill tree, accessed on the second floor of the hotel. In Lies of P, you're encouraged to not just sit on saving one precious health vial left for when you really need it, because if you empty all of your vials instead, you can actually just earn back an extra charge by landing attacks. So in most cases, it's better to top off your health with that one last vial than earn back another one as you kill stuff. Now let's poke our nose into the weapon assembly system. The weapon's blade that you pick decides its damage type and one of the weapon's fable arts, whereas the handle you choose decides the weapon's actual moveset, its attribute scaling, and second fable art. I suggest finding a blade that you really like and sticking with it for a while, since you can upgrade the overall level of just the blade to make it more powerful, then you can slap it on any other handle to change its moveset and attribute scaling when needed. Like here, I was able to just move my +10 salamander dagger blade onto a different handle, making it function like a fire-imbued rocket spear knife. Once you have this guy in your hotel, he's a vendor, and you'll be able to buy crank from him, cranks, plural, that focus on different attributes. This allows you to fine-tune the attribute scaling on a weapon's handle, like in this case, using a technique crank to lower its motivity scaling but increase its technique scaling. Another important thing to consider when building weapons is the weight of the blade that you put on. Like, combine the booster glaive handle with this heavy hammer blade, and the weapon will use the glaive's moveset but swing pretty slow like a hammer. However, put a lightweight blade like the chef's knife on the booster glaive handle, and now the finished product swings noticeably faster. Use this knowledge to manually speed up or slow down your favorite movesets. Weapon assembly affects the reach of weapons as well, like the rapier that the dexterity path starts with. If you take off its blade and change the handle to something that's physically longer, you've essentially created a longer reaching rapier. Some handles that you'll find throughout the game even move the installed blade in unusual ways. Like the pistol rock drill handle, if you hold the special attack input, it'll rapidly pump whatever you slap onto the end of it to multi-hit. The Spear of Honor handle, on the other hand, will continually rotate around any blade that you install on it. Honestly, the weapon assembly system in Lies of P is top tier, and by the end of this next section coming up, it becomes even better. Alright, now here's how to access the Overture expansion, and this is something that I recommend that you at least start as soon as it becomes available, since Overture has multiple of my absolute must-have favorite weapons in the entire game. Yeah. It also gets you a few brand new Legion arms to play around with as well. To get into Overture, you'll need to progress through the main campaign to Chapter 9 and beat the boss at the end of that chapter called the Corrupted Parade Master. After that, travel to the waypoint Path of the Pilgrim in Chapter 5. Turn around, head up over here, by these graves, and you'll see here a Stargazer that you should now be able to interact with, which will warp you over to the Overture expansion. This starts you in a large, snowy area and takes you through multiple entirely new regions. Now that you're hypothetically in Overture, you can get some absolutely game-changing, amazing weapons. Like Death's Talons are these hand claws that have a moveset and animation so satisfying, using these pretty much makes this the best unofficial Wolverine game you can play on Nintendo Switch 2, in my opinion. Some of its attack animations even dynamically enlarge in the claws, kind of comic book style, where they're not just one set size. So yeah, the devs really poured some love into the Death's Talons, aka the currently best Logan combat game that's out. The next one that I also really like in the Overture expansion that completely changes the feel of combat is the new bow. This allows for a fully ranged playstyle, and luckily there's no ammo resource or anything that's needed, so you have gloriously infinite arrows. Overture has one of my favorite weapon assembly blades as well, the Maniac's Pinwheel. The blade of this weapon will actually start to charge up and rotate the metal pinwheels just from character movement. So run around enough to charge it all the way up, and then your attacks will be enhanced with a kind of chainsaw-like grinding effect. However, if you slap the Maniac's Pinwheel blade on the bolt handle, also found in the Overture expansion, this Rocket Spear's moveset with the installed pinwheel blade creates a unique synergy. You can sprint and hold special attack to rapidly blast forward with the bolt handle, and that movement quickly throttles those metal blades into rotating throughout the entire attack. There's other unique synergies like this you can build in the weapon assembly system, so get in there, mess around, throw blades on different weird handles, see what you can invent. Alright, now hopefully if you never played Lies of P before, that prepares you for the journey ahead. There's 3 different difficulty settings you can toggle between, so it can be brutally hard like a normal Souls-like, or more like a story-focused action game if you just bump that difficulty down. Now, a big thanks today to Lies of P for sponsoring the video, and use the link I have in the video description or in my pinned comment to grab Lies of P Complete Edition, which just launched on Nintendo Switch 2. Lies of P in your pocket, confirmed. Well, at least a big pocket. Lies of P and the Overture expansion are also available on the other consoles and PC as well, if you're looking to pick it up for the first time in 2026. Okay, go check it out, let me know what you think, and as always, I'm Alex. Hope to see you in the next one.